I look rough. I look like somebody beat the shit out of me.
Material just degenerates over time.
Oh, don't I know it. When we first bought the bus, the rubber flooring seemed like it was in pretty good condition. It was really filthy, but that was no surprise because it's been carting kids around for 17 years. But that rubber was hiding a very dark secret. The subfloor underneath was soaked, and it seemed like it had been for a very long time. The upshot of that was that it made it very easy to pull out. It basically just fell apart in our hands. The downside, however, is that of course there was a lot of surface level rust because of that, but also in some areas the floor seemed to have fused to the metal. Our first thought was to just take an angle grinder to it, but that turned out to be quite intense, and we quickly realized that we might be better off by hand scraping as much of it as possible. And now that that's all done, I'm gonna get to work getting the rest of the residual rust off, and I'm gonna try to use these little wire wheels at first and see how well those work. And then if that doesn't work, I'll graduate up to the angle grinder. Alex actually isn't with me today. He's had to work today, you know, put food on the table. But I felt like doing some hard labor today, so I am out here on my own. And now that I say that out loud, I realize how completely ridiculous it sounds. But, you know, hard labor is good for the soul, right? Now, in about a minute and a half, you're gonna be saying, why on earth doesn't she just open up all those windows and the doors and use that fan that she took out to blow all the dust out? And there's a really good reason for that. We are currently working on this bus in our storage area because we can't work on it at our house. And we have neighbors next to us, only maybe 4 or 5 feet away. We're trying very hard to not be rude to our neighbors. So far, nobody has complained that we're out here working on it, and we would really like to keep it that way because this is the cheapest and most convenient place for us to be able to do this. So we're doing everything we can to keep our neighbors happy by not spreading all of our crap all over the place. All right, safety before beauty. I'm definitely going to have to use the grinder on this as well. This is getting a lot of the loose dust off, but some of the deeper stuff is not going to come off this way. Oh, look at all that. I think it's about time that I get my camera out of here. One thing I will do though is do a time lapse using my phone, and what I'm going to do is put it in this little Ziploc bag. I use an app called Framelapse Pro to do time lapses using my phone. So I'm going to put this in here, see if that protects it well enough. Hopefully it will, and still come out okay. We'll see. Oh my goodness. Oh, what a mess. I look like I've been in a coal mine. The time lapse was no good at all because it got very difficult to see anything within seconds. I mean, I opened the door for just a few seconds to walk out and it was just flying out the door. So that's why we're keeping the doors closed so we don't piss off our neighbors. Now I'm gonna go home and have the longest shower ever. I put my clothes directly into the laundry when I got home, and that is the water. Oh man. Come with me and see. Oh boy. Oh. Wow. Going in for round 2, but I'm not gonna film any of it. Where's the door? Can't even see the windshield. It's over there somewhere.
Exotica. Exotica. Enter the world of Exotica.
Now, even after all of that sanding and vacuuming that I did in here, it's still pretty filthy. In order to wash anything on the inside of this bus, we have to actually bring the water with us. We don't have access to water out here. So we fill up these 6-gallon jugs, we have 3 of these, and we just fill them up at home with the water hose and bring them over here with us. Now, I would love to be able to just drive this somewhere and hose the whole thing down all at once. Unfortunately, that's not an option for us for a few reasons. Number one, we have taken out the driver's seat as well as the safety belt. And even if we reinstalled those though, we can't take it to our neighborhood because we live in a neighborhood with an HOA and they would not take too kindly to us driving this big monstrosity in there to hose it out into the street. And also, I haven't been able to find a washing bay, one of those where you can drive your own vehicle in and wash it out yourself, you know, thinking maybe we could, you know, hose it down from the inside in one of those. Haven't found one large enough that's also configured in such a way that we can actually fit this thing in there. So unfortunately, if we want to wash it out on the inside, we're gonna have to do it like this. Oh God. Okay, it's been a couple months since we've been out here. We've had a really intense summer here. I mean, super high temperature, super high humidity, the kind where it would have been probably pretty dangerous for us to come out here and work in this. But finally the humidity is broken and we're having a cooler day today, so I thought I'd come out and start to get a little bit more cleaning done. It's still pretty dusty and grimy in here. Now, one thing I did when I first got here though was to turn the bus on and make sure that the air brakes would fill up. That was something Alex asked me to do on my way out the door. You may remember from a few episodes ago, we installed a solar panel on the roof that was dedicated to the actual battery on the motor of the bus, just to make sure we were going to be able to, you know, crank it up. We knew it was going to be sitting here for a while, and so we wanted to be able to turn it on whenever necessary and not have a dead battery. And I did that and it cranked up great. So that solar battery system that we hooked up is working out wonderfully. Sure, there are easier ways to be doing this, but this is how I'm doing it now. So today's project is to put a layer of Coraceal down. This is Rust Converting Metal Primer. And apparently what this does is it will convert the surface level rust into a material that, presumably metal, that you can paint and it won't peel off the way something rusted would. Now, I'll be honest, I do not understand the chemistry or the science behind this. I don't understand why this works. So if anybody out there knows, please post a comment below so that I can learn and we can all learn from you, because I have no idea how this works. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this on there, and then we'll be able to move on to actually sealing the floor up. As soon as you start painting this stuff on here, it starts to turn black where it's converting the rust. So that's actually kind of cool, and it dries clear in the areas where it's not rusty. So it'll be pretty interesting to come back tomorrow after it's had 24 hours to cure and see what it looks like. When we got the bus, one of the first things that we did was pull out the seats, and that left us with lots and lots of tiny little holes in the floor where the bolts had been. Before we can build the floor back up, we've got to seal off those holes, and most people use pennies for this. Aside from being perfectly sized and super cheap, pennies, like all other coins, do not contain any iron. Therefore, they will never rust, which makes them the perfect thing to use to seal up these holes. Now, what I'm using to glue these pennies down is this stuff called Weldwood, and it's working pretty well, actually. They're sticking quite well, although you do have to paint both sides of the metal first and let them sit for a few minutes and then stick them together, but they are sticking really well. Now, I am sticking all of these heads up out of, I don't know, superstition, I guess. And apparently the British are going to have a presence here in my bus. I'm now on my second trip back to the bank because I keep running out of pennies. I keep finding more and more holes. Today I am just putting on a little coat of just a basic white primer just to give it a little bit of extra protection. Before I did that, I did go around and add another layer of the Coraseal on some spots that seemed like they were still a little bit rusty. And for this one last layer of primer, I'm just using Bullseye 123, just a basic primer, just to kind of give it a little bit of extra protection.